Women constantly talk about how liberating divorce is supposed to be, right? The fresh start, the excitement of new beginnings, perhaps the chance to meet someone even better. But here's what happens when the reality turns out to be a lot less glamorous than the fantasy. I'm starting to regret my divorce. I'm stuck dating depressed dads. Divorce, once rare and stigmatized, has become mainstream. Here, a writer tells how being single and ready to mingle after 20 years wasn't all it was cracked up to be. All right, here we go. She says, I've just re-downloaded Hinge for the second time in 2 weeks. Anyone who uses dating apps recognize this inevitable and repetitive cycle, the defiant delete followed by a week or two of creeping loneliness, topped off by the crawl back to the app. I would estimate I've done this at least 20 times in the past 2 years. How about you stop deleting it after the 5th time, eh? Only it wasn't supposed to be like this. Dating post-divorce wasn't meant to be such a disappointment. Well, says who? The prospect of being free and single to mingle after 20 years of marriage, kids, and cohabitation dazzled me, at least at first. It shimmered with hope, renewed passion, steamy sex, the crackle, and fizz of connection. In other words, I wanted to try out the dating apps because I never got to when I was younger, and that seems exciting. Turns out, nope. But the reality simply hasn't lived up to the fantasy. The grass, as it turns out, really isn't greener after all. And in some ways, after 5 years of failed first dates, frizzins that fizzle out, and the realization that F-boys still exist, even at the age of 50, I'm left wondering whether it was worth getting divorced at all. Well, I think you know what the answer is to that. My marriage ended because we'd grown apart. I'd never had another boyfriend, and he had no other girlfriends. So 20 years in, we were more like old friends than a couple in love, but I swear casual dating never used to be as bad as it is today. In the 90s, when we went out to the clubs in East London, we'd come home elated, having snogged a premiership footballer or two. Frank Lampard, I remember you fondly. Oh my God. So this woman was married for 20 years. She's been divorced for 5, and she still remembers this guy in the 90s that pumped and dumped her. Unbelievable. Oh man. And it's like, yeah, well, this exact type of woman who had that experience when she was younger with this high status premier guy, turns out she can't stay in a marriage. Shocker. Shocker. And actually, it seems that the reason she has divorced is because she wants to go back to that lifestyle. Because her memories, she's very fond of them. Getting smashed by a footballer. Wow. Yet you deserve nothing. Yet now, 30 years later, I find myself on the other side of the dating cavern where every man seems to be more bitter and jaded than the one before, especially the depressed, divorced dads. I think age has a lot to do with it. By your 40s, you're covered in war wounds from relationships gone sour. And a lot of people bring that bitterness into their online prompts. Let me guess, you excluded? 2 years ago, it was one of the worst experiences in dating after divorce. I discovered my then boyfriend of a year. Okay, so she's had relationships post-divorce. I discovered my boyfriend was living a complete double life with a second girlfriend who he lived with and had a cat with, rather than being single like he told me. Yeah, you were the side piece. Admittedly, they're not all that bad, but many are so deeply uninspiring and unsexy. There was a 40-something who had been in between jobs his whole life. 45-year-old who told me this week he doesn't have a house. He sofa surfs through UK and Europe using cheap hotels, Airbnbs, and friends. When I said that it must make it hard to date, he seemed confused. Not really, he wrote. If I like you, I'll just stay in London for longer, like 2 or 3 months. One man, well, you know, I'm interested to see what guys she's matching with. But it's like, we know how women behave on dating apps. One man I dated briefly 3 years ago told me his life dream was to become a house husband. Oh, I like being lazy, he offered tantalizingly, so I can stay at home while you go out and work. Wow. Hot. Yeah, she says that sarcastically. Hey, lady, the year's 2025. What, are you not progressive enough? You can't handle a man who wants you to go out and work and provide for him? What's the problem? Then there are the men who lack even the basic semblance of hygiene. The same lazy boyfriend warned me before I visited his flat for the first time that it could do with a deep clean. When I got there, he'd never heard of bleach or curtains. He said, I just have to wake up when it gets light. Hey, that's pretty effective. His bathroom ceiling was flecked with brown mold because he also hadn't thought of opening a window for ventilation. Another man aged 40, a homeowner, told me he'd made peace with the idea he wouldn't have children of his own, but then said in the same breath he didn't want to date anyone with kids, a.k.a. me. Okay, so this woman also has children. It's starting to make a lot more sense why that guy had a girlfriend and she was the side piece. He said he didn't want to date anyone with kids because he didn't want to rule anything out. I took leave shortly after that. That was a polite way of him telling you, I don't want to date a woman with children. I, for one, have been so put off men in their 40s that I've turned to their ex-wives. I've snogged more than a few mums night out and have dated several women. Oh, geez. What a miserable... After sparks flew at the playground, it's the one thing that I have enjoyed in this era of life after divorce, being able to explore the same-sex love affairs I'd always wondered about. Well, you can experience it now. What I've realized is that by this age and season of life, we each carry so much baggage, it's hard to start something new and romantic at all. Well, I mean, this is what you get when you divorce. It's like, what did you expect? In fact, that's become one of my deal breakers. Don't come near me unless you've done therapy. Oh my goodness. Because we all need it. I'll tell you what, the companies that kind of advertise this sort of online therapy, the companies that profit from therapy, they've done an excellent job at marketing to women to convince themselves that this is something everybody should do. That needs to be studied. How these companies or these people have been able to make therapy such a booming business. It's gone from this sort of stigma around going to see a shrink, right, which was very uncommon, and now modern women think everybody needs to do therapy. What a successful marketing campaign. We all need it, especially the men who are 50. And it's by the way, it's women who are buying into this hook, line, and sinker, of course. Especially the men who are 50 and are still saying they're not sure what they want. Right now, it feels like dating simply isn't worth it. I wouldn't say I fully regret my marital split, but I would say that unless you're really, really miserable, think carefully before you detonate that divorce button. Okay, we need more of that. We need more women saying that, so at least she is here doing exactly that. If you're tempted to exit your marriage because the prospect of starting all over again with someone new seems fresh and exciting, take it from me, it can be harder than you think to find a good or even good enough prospect. Yeah, and a lot of these women think they're going to find a man better than their husband. And speed dating, singles nights, and swiping aren't all they're cracked up to be. Rather than sizzling with potential, they can feel sad and draining and more like shopping the reduced section at the supermarket. So only get divorced if you're really sure, because it doesn't always come up roses like you think it will. Unless Frank Lampard is single, where are you, Frank? Oh my God. Hey lady, you were nothing to him but a pump and dump. And you're decades later. Oh my God, it's pathetic. My biggest takeaway here is how obsessed this woman is with a guy that she had a one-night stand with in the 1990s. I mean, imagine how frequently during her marriage she was thinking about this guy. I mean, just in this article, she mentioned him twice. And this guy probably never thinks about her, but here she is name-dropping him over and over. It was the best night of her life. She wants him to come back. Hey, sir, are you single? Do you got time for me? A divorced single mother. Yeah, I mean, she got a taste of the status, right? And unfortunately, some guy decided to make her his wife. And hey, it seems like it went well for a while, 20 years. But she just couldn't keep holding on. She had to blow it up, right? Because, well, she wanted to go back to that lifestyle. All she could think about is how great that one night stand was with a man infinitely better than her. And, what is this woman trying to do? So she's okay with just hooking up with women, it seems. But then when it comes to men, she still is looking for commitment and access to resources. But it's like, okay, so you left a marriage. Are you trying to find another one? Do you think that 10 years deep into this next marriage, if you're lucky enough to get proposed to again, do you think it's going to be any different than your first? You think you're not going to get bored and want to leave again? Or did you need life after your first divorce to be so miserable that now you got the lesson and won't make that mistake again? That's probably what it is. But again, maybe not. What she should have done is learn from other people's mistakes, but unfortunately for her, that takes a wise person to do. And a lot of these older women are being influenced by younger women thanks to social media. They're scrolling, listening in on the gossip, the dating stories, the adventures, all being done through the dating apps. And for these older women, they never got to experience that kind of dating when they were younger. So now they've got this possibility of having a literal digital catalog of men in front of them that they can just yes, no. And they've got that for the first time in their life. Literally on the phone, sign up, get access to a bunch of men. Hey, which ones do you want to bang? And, for them, this is the first time that they can have something like that. And it's like suddenly, they're really curious about that. These married women who were already bored and halfway out the door emotionally, they start thinking, I don't want to miss out on this new dating technology that also might allow them to find a new, more exciting man, although the chances are very, very low. They catch a little FOMO and convince themselves, you know what? Let me try this out. And then, of course, they realize the grass isn't greener. It never was. So, no, hang it up, lady. Just commit to the carpet life and leave the men out of your confusion.